My name is Kerrigan Faust, and today I wanted to talk about how big data analytics encourages mass surveillance, not just by governments, but also by corporations and the everyday technologies we use without thinking. Over the next couple minutes, I want to walk you through how data is collected, how it's used, and why it is normalizing a system of constant monitoring. But let's first start by understanding what big data analytics actually is. So, what is it? Big data analytics is the process of examining extremely large data sets to identify patterns, make predictions, and guide decisions. Most of us contribute to these data sets every day through our phones, laptops, smartwatches, and even smart home devices such as, she who shall not be named, lest she activate. As more data is collected, our behaviors, preferences, and movements can be monitored at a scale that was unimaginable a decade ago. And now that we know what big data analytics is, let's look at how it collects data constantly and often invisibly. Apps track your GPS location, your contacts, and even your microphone activity unless you tell them not to. Websites also use cookies and pixel trackers to follow you across the internet. Smart assistants like Home or smart TVs automatically collect data without you even asking. Most people just do not realize how much information that they are giving away simply just by using these devices. And what happens once companies collect all of this data? Once collected, companies use this data to create highly detailed and behavioral profiles. These profiles include your interests, your habits, your purchases, income range, and sometimes even your emotional patterns. And then data brokers come in and buy and sell this information, meaning that your personal details can end up in multiple places without your consent. And essentially, these profiles act like digital surveillance dossiers, tracking your behavior and predicting what you might do next. And over time, this kind of tracking, it starts to feel normal. Like, Walmart experiences over 1 million transactions an hour, which is over 2.5 million gigabytes of data, which is 167 times the information that we have stored in the Library of Congress. That is just a bit insane, don't you think? Tracking has become so normalized because people accept it in exchange for convenience. Personalized ads, recommendations, and services make it seem harmless or even helpful. Most of us assume that tracking is simply part of using the internet. And this normalization hides the fact that surveillance is occurring constantly in our digital lives. And it brushes it over. Corporate surveillance is one part of the picture, but governments are also using big data to monitor their populations. Agencies collect phone metadata to see who you contact, when, how often, all of that. Smart city sensors track movements through traffic cameras and license plate readers. Facial recognition systems in public spaces can monitor individuals in real time. While these tools are often justified for safety and efficiency, they allow the monitoring of entire populations. And surveillance doesn't stop at observation. It's also being used to predict behavior. Predictive monitoring takes surveillance to the next level. Algorithms in predictive policing, for example, try to identify high-risk individuals or neighborhoods before a crime happens. And AI tools analyze patterns in behavior to forecast potential actions. The problem is that these systems rely on historical data, which can be biased. And that means people can be flagged or monitored based on inaccurate or unfair assumptions, when they don't even need to. A study taken of a group of college students to see how their GPAs would correlate between high school and college shows that when using an administrative data set, which is base level and non-invasive, they predicted 68.6 of the students placing in the same GPA range that they did in high school. And when they added in this data from invasive data sets, it did not improve the performance and predictiveness of the model. And that shows that there is no reason to be harvesting this invasive data for this purpose if it does not even fulfill the purpose that it is being told it does. At least in this situation. And now let's look at how corporate and government surveillance are increasingly overlapping, because the line between their surveillances is blurring. Law enforcement agencies often buy user data from companies or data brokers, allowing access to your information without a warrant. Tech companies also partner with police departments, sharing facial recognition networks or sensor systems. This creates a shared ecosystem where private and public surveillance are working together almost seamlessly, which is going to make oversight and regulation even more difficult. And what happens to this data once it's collected? Well, it's rarely deleted. It's stored indefinitely and can be repurposed for purposes other than what it was originally collected for. Data that is supposedly anonymous can often be re-identified, and massive datasets are vulnerable to breaches. This permanence and flexibility makes surveillance not only constant, but also long-lasting and potentially risky for individuals involved. And so what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? To sum it up, big data analytics encourages mass surveillance by enabling constant and invisible tracking, normalizing the collection of personal information needlessly, and merging corporate and government monitoring without any oversight. Predictive tools, and permanent data storage amplify the scope of surveillance. And essentially, big data doesn't just record what we do, it anticipates, categorizes, and monitors us in ways that are increasingly difficult to escape. There are even people coming up with makeup that would blur our features from facial recognition. People are worried about this. And I am too. I don't know how this is going to play out. But I wanted to talk about it, so thank you for listening, and remember, your digital footprint is bigger than you think.